My name is Donald Hutson,
I'm Reg.
Paul Farrell.
and we're from Team Mutant Robots and Lockjaw. Welcome to RoboCast.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sam Elliott64, and welcome to the RoboCast. I'm joined alongside Steve the American Killjoy and World of Woodrow. Gents, episode 100 of the podcast. How are we all doing?
We did it. We made it.
I know. And you introduced us this time.
I know. I did it last time as well.
Did you? I don't remember.
You weren't here. You were away.
I know.
Are you good
I
now?
was a little predisposed. Yeah, I'm doing better now.
Yeah.
It was a very complicated few weeks, but
Yeah.
it's been getting better. So
Yeah, absolutely.
happy to be back.
And I mean, what a time it is, because obviously we've just had BattleBots Season 6 announced as well. And I found out recently this is actually our 5-year anniversary as well, which is it's all
your
come together
5-year anniversary.
Okay,
I
yeah.
kind of
Definitely
hijacked this spot.
5-year.
Okay, fair enough. It's all come about together at the same time. But we have a very special guest, and a set of guests actually, for our 100th episode. Introduce yourself, guys.
My name is Donald Hutson, and from Mutant Robots with my team and pilots and co-pilots, Paul Farrell and Reginald Wilson, who are my number ones. I mean, basically, I would not even be in here in front of you, if it wasn't for these two guys. These are the guys that always show up and raise their hand and say, "All right, what are we doing next?"
The willing volunteers. What an honor. I mean, I think it's safe to say that Robot Combat and BattleBots as a whole probably wouldn't be the same without yourself, Donald.
Oh, thank you so much.
I mean, how do you? Let's start at the beginning. Like, how do you look back on your career to a point? Because obviously you fought in every era of the show, even before the show.
Yeah. Well, I think the way I describe it to other folks is it's the hardest fun I've ever had, and I'm great. I'm very thankful to look back all the way back to Robot Wars days, which is, as you guys know, very prevalent over in across the pond, as we say. Yeah, I got some British action, but I feel good about it because I look up and I see all the great engineers that have came from it, and yeah. So what's not to feel great about it? Yeah. Does my back hurt? Is my garage full of robots? Yes. But just I feel great. Even at this point, as I look back 20 years, I'm still driven by it. I'm still excited when it comes on again, and I'm still thankful that I keep getting building shit, because they really, really that's all this is somebody gave me an excuse to keep building, stuff, and so it's been great. Yeah.
Absolutely. Obviously, you mentioned, things coming around again. We've just had, literally within the last couple of days, confirmation that there's going to be a 6th season of BattleBots in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I know you can't reveal too much, at the moment, but I'm assuming there's plans afoot to hopefully take a lockjaw of some description down there.
Yes. It's better put that way, right?
Yeah. I'm sure we can cut that if there's anything.
It's a vague enough yes that I think it will pass. Yeah.
It's like you have two options. You could be like, well, every year for the last 5 years, I've showed up with a new robot. So, you could either, go one way or the other with that one, right?
This is true.
Yeah, I won't give away too much for it, but I will say that I'm very happy that they found a new home in Vegas.
I know.
And
awesome.
Discovery was bought, right, by a company who owns Warner Brothers, who owns Disney. We might be getting closer to what I think is really what we've all been looking for. We all build, I think the heart of us all build characters. And we look on the TV screen and we want those characters to live out their plan, right? When we're sitting in a garage, and at least maybe I'm not speaking for everybody, but for myself, when I sit down and I build a robot, all I can think about is, what it could do and how great it would be to do it and win that way, right? So I have a particular way I want to win. I want to win with taking on some challenges. I want to win by not copying other robots as much as possible and have my own identity. And I want a knockdown, drag out fight, just like everybody else. I want the untold story to happen. And I think that in itself is a perfect chemistry for the likes of unique robots like Chomp, who sure gets a lot of shit, but I give them the most credit. They sign up to do what I love, which is build something amazing.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
Your boys over there from the Razor team, I'm the biggest fans of them because they choose the path less traveled. They know that winning with style is way more important than anything else.
And they struggled for years to try to get over that hump. I mean, they'd show up with a robot that looked super beautiful, and then all of a sudden it gets stuck in forward drive, or it just breaks down, or it
it pins itself
wheel.
to the floor.
Yeah,
that sounds very familiar.
We call it the new bot blues.
Yeah.
We're more impaling ourselves into,
I tend to remember.
Yeah,
I know. Those kill source slots have been bothering you, I think, honestly, since like early BattleBots, like season 2. We'll get to it, but there's a particular fight in season 2 toward the end where, holy crap!
I would start.
It's like the redo of Saw. Like,
there's always going to be the parts of the arena that cause you havoc. You got to remind yourself that all the arenas have always carried one thing, and that's the ability to just be laid against the wall. You're stuck up on your own end frame, hung up on a metal shaving that another robot created. I mean, these ways to fail are what we're all here to learn and be humbleized by, right? I mean, that's the heart. I always wish somebody would have went back and wrote a book about the ways we failed.
Yeah.
Right? It's a huge, ridiculous list. I mean, if you could convince everybody to say, all right, well, how'd you lose last season? They're like, well, something stupid happened. We flipped upside down. We think this controller shorted out, which happened to be the regulator for the robot, caused a fire. Right? I don't think anybody would compete in this event if they found out how we all lost.
Yeah.
We had one last week with when Mike Jeffries was on before I was here, and the way that Overhaul lost in season 2 was because a set screw fell out of Bombshell in a previous fight and got sucked into the drive of Overhaul. I mean, you can't plan these things.
Yeah, we've been ingesting parts later too. But I'll back you up since you want this long history, and I just want you to know that from the very beginning, my boost into this was because I was like every other young builder. I'd seen it on TV on like Amazing America, which I think was a BBC show. And it was back in the day, we were happy to just be on the news, right? That was amazing, right? To have something like that happen. But really what did it was I went there, built TazBot in 30 days, pretty much held a baseball in my hand, bat, and said I wanted to drive up to robots with it wound up and just smash into them. And that's literally how TazBot was created. I held a baseball bat in my hand.
I've never thought of it like that before, and now I can't unsee it. Like, of course it is. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's why the base spins the other way. The turret can counter rotate, and then when I unload the clutch, I get the momentum of both. And then I have the shock absorption and the follow through to go along with it. But it wasn't the building of TazBot that did it. It was what the community did when I showed up. It was the fact that they pitted me my first fight against Mark Satrakian and the Master.
Yeah.
Now, maybe you guys will find that old footage somewhere. But if you watch that fight, it's kind of what we all imagine is really just kind of a knockdown, drag out fight. I mean, me and Mark Satrakian, he's hammering this way, I'm swinging this way. There's sparks going, we're dancing around. I mean, it was for me, it was what I thought a fight would look like in BattleBots is a bunch of sparks, things happening left and right. And at the end of it, I do this glancing blow, I'll never forget it, as he reared up with his saw. TazBot swings a perfect strike across his belly like he's slaying a dragon, pinches his 2 wires to his weapon, kills the saw, and then all I did is put the arm on top of him, and in those days we could just hold him against the wall.
Yeah.
Okay? But for me, it really just it drew me in.
Mhm.
It made me see that, as he would say it, it's art imitating TV.
Well,
You know,
it's the thing with both of these robots, the Master and Taz, as it was. These are very sort of. If you ask somebody to draw what they thought a fighting robot looked like, these are the sorts of things that they would draw. It's very much, as I like to call, classic robot design. In that it's these wild robots that it's never what you expect them to look like, but at the same time, it's exactly what they should be.
yeah. There's a difference between what they look like and what what drives their intent, right? And I love to see that in robots. I think it's when you look on a robot and there's nothing on it, you can afford to lose. And you see a good engineer will see the elegance in the design. And I think we all appreciate that, right? When we walk up to a robot, we're like, oh my God, you went through so much work to get that motor in there, but wow, what a great way to do it, right?
Exactly.
As like a module or something like that. Now, keep in mind, back in that day, I was a medical guy. I wasn't in robotics at all. I was just repairing medical equipment. But it was that fight that kept me in line. It made me realize it was never about winning. It was about being part of something that began.
Yeah.
Something that was inevitable, something that was, I knew at that time, even at that early time, when it grew, I wanted to be there. As it went towards walking robots, that's the only reason I'm still here. Because I hope that it gets the momentum and speed so that we can keep that. That's what turns me on. That's what I want to keep building more complicated robots. I want to keep I don't like taking the complexity out of them. I kind of want to win that way. I want to win with uniqueness and tricks, and they all have a cost.
Yeah.
And in today's world, we find ourselves trying to be a bit more solid than we used to in those creative days.
Yeah, I was just watching some old Comedy Central stuff back, and I was listening to the commentators at Build a Wire. He always said that TazBot was one of, if not his favorite robot, because of the complexity of it.
He's cute. That's what I get a lot. Yeah, I get a lot of people asking me to build them, and I would love to take that on someday. I think someday and it could be sooner and later. You never know.
Yeah, it's the marriage of like creatures coming out of the void and machinery. And I think that's one of the things that is really kind of have your team and your robots have a lasting impression. And that's a testament to you and your team, honestly.
I do appreciate that.
It's really had that effect.
And
I really wish I had a toy here. I had the McDonald's toy. It was in bag. I don't know where it is.
yeah. That brings me back to that was the biggest prize for me too. That's why I always encourage the designs for toys, because that's the heart of generating new blood. Yeah. People have an imagination. They want to build something. I want them to build it. And I think the toys and video games are perfect to generate that. I'm still waiting.
I think this is a good segue for your Yeti.
Yeah.
Literally over the last day, he's dismantled a Minotaur hex bug and turned it into a Yeti.
See?
Did he really?
Yeah,
Awesome.
so sick.
That's good though. I've been wanting to do that myself, but it's all these other robots that keep me from playing with other toys.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, your toys are bigger and more dangerous, so it's all good.
They cost the earth as well.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say, is that all the way through, your robots have all followed a similar sort of design, and what you're saying about the complexity of it, they've all looked incredibly refined, and they're all incredibly complex in their own ways, but they have a
clear lineage.
Yeah.
Right.
So you say they mutate.
Exactly.
The branding's on point. There you go.
Now you're getting it. Have you ever noticed that the robots tend to take on who they've lost from previously?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or they evolve things out of them. They kind of.
We all learn. That's the heart of a good engineer, is to learn from your past. Sometimes it's a bit sticky for me, because you can overfocus on something simple that you lost by last time. But I think you're not doing the right thing if you're not considering everything you can do the next year. That's why you see me build a new robot every year, because I feel like there's things I can improve on. And it's been a long time since I haven't.
Even to the sort of less eagle-eyed, even the lineage of lockjaws we've had in the past 3 seasons, they've just been getting smaller and smaller somehow, and I'm puzzled how you're still doing it. In that it's just getting
ask them.
Where is it all?
Yet still,
Maybe we should ask them. How?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's the blood sacrifice. And
They really are becoming more man than machine, are they?
There might be some DNA in these robots.
Making them smaller is definitely part of, after an event assessing, was our frame design, how many more pounds could we lose? Who really are we worried about? As you guys know, we put a lot of time into adaptability. That's part of the Mutant robots theme, is to always come up with surprises. That's a part a lot of people don't always get to see because they just haven't had as much success over the last couple of years. But definitely, I think these guys will contest. Every time I show them the CAD design, this is the look on their face. How are we going to get that disgusted.
Yeah. Do you show them what you want to happen?
Again.
Yeah. Do you show them what you want to make happen, and then they just turn around and say, "You can't do that."
Yeah. We I push the lines pretty hard, and I will say I have been all over the place as far as designs. Right. We started out with the 6-wheel drive lockjaw when on the reboot here at BattleBots, and that had a particular design intent. Matter of fact, we had legs for that.
Oh yeah, we have the little.
You want to grab that and show them?
That's new.
Oh, here we go. We're gonna get some exclusives here, guys.
Yeah,
I think this podcast.
This is good.
This is the content we want to see.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, this is how it starts. I start with, okay, BattleBots is back. What would be amazing is a 6-wheel drive with encoded wheels as a WEG leg. These are titanium. These actually bolt on the 6-wheel drive.
Oh,
Now,
real.
I'm just going to let them hold it while he shows you what he thought of when we were making them at the event. Right? We wanted to build a semi-walking robot. And then we wanted the jaws for that purpose to do what we call basically a way of lifting a robot. No one really knows this, but that version of lockjaw was designed to grab you and fold the bottom underneath.
Right.
Rather than just your standard grab and lift.
It wasn't a lifter. It was designed to grab you and then do the difference and put the bottom underneath you and then lift you straight up and stand up.
Oh man.
So, I mean, that
That's
makes
exactly
sense,
what they said. They said this,
that does make sense though, because like the studio shot of the robot for the 2015 season is it standing on its end, right? So that makes more sense now. I think.
That's why you've seen it. Yeah, well, that shot we were balanced on the jaws,
Mhm.
right? And the body was up in the air, I think, if I remember right. I forgot what that image was, but it was originally called suplex. And the premise of the design was to, redo how you lift a robot. And then I will tell you, I was after the idea of standing straight up as a double pendulum and body slamming them on the railing. Now, that's kind of where my brain goes, because I know that if I'd have done that once, I wouldn't have had to win.
Yeah, that's it then. You've won. You yourself have won.
That's a warhead move, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's warhead.
Yeah.
When you stood up on it and rolled across the arena on fire.
Yeah, they're like
Right.
Yeah.
So for me, those are how I usually start out ideas. Is I start very deep. I go as deep as I can because I got that giddy feeling inside of me. What would be amazing? And then reality sets in, weight sets in, the event sets in, right? And then controls. I mean, that robot
Interrelated timing.
that robot was only one level less complex than Root Canal. Did you guys ever see the heavyweight version of Root
We
Canal?
were going to discuss Root Canal a bit later, but the kind of the one that was for was it 2009 BattleBots show?
Yeah,
That's the one.
yeah.
With the best wheels ever.
Yeah. So, I can go off on tangents on each one of these, but basically in the design scheme, as we follow through this topic of how Lockjaw has evolved, once we did that, then I thought, well, that was too much weight devoted to 6-wheel drive. I need more armor. I didn't like how we finished with that fight. I was almost, because it lost so poorly, it's still in one piece. It's sitting over here off to the side, yeah, both of them. It's sad. And then I thought, well, I want to do an electric flipper. And again, I show these guys an all titanium, 80 pounds of titanium it took to build that electric flipper. It had no welds. It had 5 truck springs in it. It took breaker bars to load it. And these guys would sit for hours putting the spacers, and it's literally can be laser cut and put together, right?
Except for all the spacers, which are all little hand
right.
carved
Titanium. We spent hours.
bits of terror.
Yeah. Now, sadly, we didn't have a backup of that. We had backup parts, but we were not strong enough to pull that design off. But let's go back to design intent.
Right.
Design intent for that design was, I wanted to be able to say I built an electric invertible flipper in the form of Lockjaw, and I wanted to be able to grab robots right afterwards.
And to a degree, it did. Like in the season, because obviously you got grabs in the Yeti fight, and you flipped robots over in the Rumble at the end. So it did.
Yeah.
It did work. It's just maybe not as you expected originally.
The Yeti was, again, poor driving, missed first shot. And, I had a short in the wire, another stupid problem because of complexity.
But the beautiful sparks.
Oh, it was such a good fight, wasn't it?
Now imagine me. That's my beautiful, expensive set of titanium jaws. And I know.
Well, you're the one that made it out of titanium.
You know what I had to do without no one noticing? I had to go out in the pits and cut the teeth off it.
Oh, bit of dentistry.
So his drum wouldn't grab the top jaw and rip it off. So that's how come I was able to kind of gum the drum. That was our idea. We're like, well, this is all we got. If nothing else works, we can slow down the drum.
Yeah.
And to be fair, it did look amazing, but that whole robot was about that idea. And it's still, we have the whole set up here. We built a prototype frame out of chromoly, and we built a whole chromoly set of jaws before we had to invest the money in the titanium one, because it was that stupid of an idea, right? It was just like, yeah, we're gonna make a transmission and a cam system to wind down this thing, and it's gonna pivot, and
Just the edge of that.
it was the edge of that.
Over the back, it's a razor thin edge.
But again, I always consider these robots successful if they partially do what we intended. I think the one before that, the 6-wheel drive, we were a little pushing it with flamethrowers.
Oh yeah.
We never quite got those working. We had flamethrowers in the jaws. We ditched those since then.
We never wait.
Yeah,
we keep throwing other things on.
Yeah. And then I don't know what got us to Lockjaw with a weapon. Do you remember what our conversation was? Why we decided we would?
Well, it
was like I was fighting it. I didn't want to be like everybody
I know. I don't want to fall into the rut. No.
Yeah.
I feel I did.
It's just the arena weapons and the arena were no longer conducive to just controlling people. You essentially couldn't win just controlling people.
I suppose
right.
the rule set at the time, 2016, we were discussing last week with the primary weapon rule, and the favour towards
kinetic
weapons.
Yeah, I think I threaded the needle a little thin with the ratio of how the jaws were working, especially from root canal into Lockjaw 1. The flipper kind of is its own thing. I don't even know how that half-breed came out of my brain. That was just out of pure being pissed off. Yeah, there were still jaws. I was like looking for any other way to do jaws before I gave up totally, I think, in my mind,
I mean, to be fair, like the early spinner lockjaws, if you like, that kind of its own species had the lifting arms as well, didn't they? They were all actuated. I was like, I forget that they were actuated once upon a time and could be
root canal had 4 continuously rotating jaws.
Yeah.
They didn't have any interference between any of them. So that was the first suplex type robot because we could leave one on the ground and we could also lift.
Mhm.
So if you can kind of see a theme there where I was trying my hardest to build the most complex, useful version of Jaws because I wanted to still throw people out of the arena.
Yeah.
But what happened? The arena started to change. The walls got higher. It became less effective to get them out of the arena and in the match. I was fighting a lot more for that. And even though I remember crawling back in the arena with that robot, which was
the starfish, that was the first time.
Yeah.
That was back when they didn't used to reverse the screws and help you
Yeah.
out.
Somewhere
they
Greg
let you
owes
in.
me a video of that.
Yeah.
I've yet to see it. Somebody has
It's
it.
in his compendium. He always it seems to be teased all the time.
Yeah.
Where are all these hidden fights that we've never seen?
That was like me. That was that same thing that I talk about when I build a robot. I had a choice to build the robot a certain way, but the minute I envisioned to myself how cool it would be to put the jaws in a star and crawl back in the arena, I remember sitting at my desk, getting that feeling. Do you guys know this feeling I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You
Absolutely.
just kind of laugh to yourself, and you're like, "Oh,
You're
that
like,
would
"Oh."
be amazing!"
Yep.
And then it happened, right? And I always thought it was that's kind of what these robots are about. You want to have something you believe in. You want to have something that you think is amazing if you could pull it off, and then it makes it worth all the hard work. I think that's what I'm trying to give the young generation out there that builds. There's the easy route, get yourself into it, and then there's the one that the others will respect you for when you show up, whether you win or lose. And I always try to sell the later.
Not that you don't
Oh, yeah.
respect everyone that shows up.
No, it's just what did it for me. So of course I'll tout that. That's what drew me in. So maybe that's just my story. But root canal, the lockjaws, all kind of took a path. And then as they evolved into, trying to keep up with the arena, we did realize that we could keep the two jaws, ditch the top one, add what we still considered a pretty useful weapon. I think it's season one, once we worked out some of the bugs.
The first generation of it, yeah, it was
Yeah.
respectable.
I think,
it was good at popping people backwards and over.
yeah. And
Definitely took a few chunks off people.
the jaws were actuated on the rotating one where we could lift one. So we put them at such a stance that we could lift a robot still.
The fight
without tipping forward.
that sticks out for me of this particular version of Lockjaw was the sort of Waiachi fight with it was just first of all a driving masterclass. I have to say it was incredible to watch. Like the plow every single time.
I hate putting that on, by the way.
I wondered that. I've always wondered that because it's like it's very defensive and it's not like
It just makes me feel like I'm downgrading.
But when it pays off and then you get sort of Waiachi smoking in the arena and you can take chunks off it, like that surely must be a little bit sweet as well.
It is, and I think it is important that we all look at as the robots get dangerous. We're supposed to use their weapons against them. That's how. If you want to get through BattleBots, you can either fall in love with your one design and hope no one has your number, which a lot of people do. Don't get me wrong, but I haven't felt comfortable like that yet. I'm still searching for the perfect mixture of designs. But I think each robot for me, I have a certain plan for, a way that, is a work smarter, not harder kind of idea. But the bumper, we've had many successes all the way back to root canal days. Actually, all the way back to robo games. I've been using the same thing for horizontal. So I'm surprised people don't have my number by now. For horizontal spinners.
it's too good. It's too evolved.
Yeah. Just remember, I have to make weight to do that.
Yeah.
So in all of my designs, I have to build 30 pounds light.
It is interesting. Like as I say, with that fight particularly, I think you took one of the arms off, like one of the actuated front prongs off.
That was the one. That was the Waiachi one we did that for. Yeah, sometimes we do that. Uh-huh.
And there was the lighter weapon too. So we had variable weapon weights that year.
Yeah. Yeah, we have some other tricks as well.
Every other team in this.
I think a lot of
them.
I was just gonna say, right? Where's the notepad?
If we really get desperate, we just put a drill in there to drive the motor.
There you go.
Yeah, it's spinning.
Right.
No, but those are tough things for us to do because, all I want is still a good match. I don't like that we've had our, we've been through probably, I think we solved our problem last season, but I want you to know our smoking of mag motors was because we had a tire size in CAD that we originally wanted to use, but we found a better wheel design that was 2 inches bigger diameter.
We also changed batteries.
Better.
Just a little bit higher voltage.
I have a box of 25 mag motors here.
I believe it.
And
You need a box of 25, man.
Dude, that's hard. So we did make changes.
Oh, they're all burned out.
Yeah.
Stop.
I was speaking to.
Like I could write a book on all the different ways that a mag motor will explode into pieces.
Honestly, to be honest, BattleBots kind of like back when what NPC was just building wheelchairs. You guys, that you'd break them, send them back to them, have them fix them, and now look where they are now. They're like this government, like they're making stuff for like.
Now,
government things.
Yeah.
I should go back and give them a real, those guys basically, Rich from NPC was the first guy when I was in the medical field. And if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't be here today, right?
Really?
I called him and told him I needed some motors rebuilt, and I was going to use them in a stupid robot wars competition. And he's like, yeah, it's awesome. I'll send you a bunch of them. And I can't thank them enough. As you know, Tombstone still uses them. They're still very useful motors. They're built fairly well. And I would still be using them today if I just, could get them a little smaller. My designs got a little tinier with all the moving parts. And, but I still put an NPC sticker on all my parts and banners because Rich has and Norm have just been such supporters of this sport. And they just enable people to get a good foothold at starting to build a robot. It's all you really need. It's a good set of reliable motors. And then you can work on your weapon system. But yeah, the motors have quite evolved. And I should also switch it up. They weren't mag motors. They were amp flip motors.
Right. Yes. Okay. I got you.
They always correct me. I just use that as a term because that's, of course, I go back too many years. But
yeah,
we were too high on our gearing. Or low in our gearing, technically, but we solved that this season, and we solved it a week before we left last season. I couldn't invest. We have titanium gearboxes, okay, and they're done in like a Lego-like format with plates and spacers. Even the spacers that go around them are interlocked. Matter of fact, you want to grab one? We'll just show them. Just for fun. It's good. It's just a good thing to talk about. Sometimes you have to kind of come back at how you're going to make your assembly work. And at a last ditch effort, I increased every gear, which shouldn't have been possible in the transmission, by 1 tooth. And then I had a water jet cut, and I made it fit the same box. And they laughed at me, but I'm like, well, if we stop buying the Boston gears and we just make all of our own gears, and we do them 1 tooth, which you can't buy, and we change everything about it. Of course, they're laughing at me, right? I want to change everything about the gearbox except for the case that holds it. And then I want to go to the event and change them all there. And
we'll just try them on the fly. I'm sure
we tried them.
I mean,
we ran the whole event with those titanium gears in that ratio, and that really made the difference. We went from 12 to 1 to 17 to 1.
Nice. That's a pretty big difference. That'll make it that much more.
And this is the best part. Let's see if I can show you guys, because I want the young engineers to realize just what we do. We got to also worry about how to make it extra parts, right?
Right.
And this is pretty fun. So
true ambassador of the sport here, everyone.
Aluminum spacers, all puzzle fit.
Very nice.
So the pieces are in halves. All of the parts that are made of titanium, tongue and groove. Whole gearbox comes apart in pieces.
It's like it's like this but metal. It's I had this sitting beneath me, you know.
And at the end, you have your stacked up titanium.
That's lined up nicely. Who built that?
Who built that?
Oh, that was
Now you may
Pat
laugh.
yourself on the back.
I give you this piece of insight because, you know, we always talk about, you know, how cool the robot is, you know, and you look at my little lobe shaped design, but look how much work we put in to making sure that I can lose this part of the gearbox.
And it's fine. Yeah.
And they're ambidextrous. So I don't have a left and a right. I only have a left and a right build. I can use any of these parts from the other robots.
Wow.
And that's part of our secret. We make sure that in the design, we can keep up with the attrition. And, you know, our wheels are out there in the open, but that keeps us mobile. And so...
and they take beating.
And they've been taking a beating. We won't disclose our wheel technology, but we put a lot of time into it. We know that having redundancy as much as possible is very good. And so this has definitely been in the last 3 robots, but this, you know, last season we got our gearing upgrade and we just got done making all the gears this way. So
I think the thing for me, like, that always is the best flex is the camber, because like I don't know how does it serve a purpose having the camber, but it just looks cool, so it works for me.
It lowers the center of gravity. That's usually what the reason. Like I think of cars, you know what I mean?
that's one.
Okay.
That's a very good one. Have you also ever thought that the tire is wider as you lay it over?
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
Okay, and what about all the space that happens when you put your motor right through the center of your little frame, trying to be invertible, right? All my robots are invertible, right?
Mm-hmm.
That means I have this big of a wheel, I have this big of a frame. It's not smart for me to put the motor in the middle, because when I tip it down, I get the lower center of gravity, and I get all this space. So
Yeah.
that's
for
the main reason.
other
And
things that could
now I'm surprised you
be
guys
useful
haven't
for the
thought about
design.
this. Now there's a 4th reason, but you have to guess it.
Style points.
Say it again?
Style points.
That's the 5th.
You said style.
Team
Okay.
identity, yes.
Yeah.
No. Spinners.
Yeah. So it wouldn't catch on to them as easily, basically.
Bingo.
There you go.
Edges and directions of attack become a bit different. It also keeps me more leaning back down. Lower center of gravity goes with that.
Mm-hmm.
But and then there's actually a 6th one. You ready?
Go on.
Wait,
Yeah.
more.
Okay. This is the arena wall or another robot with a flat side.
Mm-hmm.
This is a flat wheel being pushed against a wall. Spins both directions, drags both sides.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's like that, I can get away.
Just slides
Right.
off. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, it's round. I guess that would be number 7.
Right.
All
So
these
the
reasons.
profile of the wheel is not a square side while you're pushed up against something. It actually has a radius to it. So rolling yourself away and getting free is it's a lot of reasons, isn't it?
Yeah. I have something I'd like to share with you.
Sure.
I have a 1 pound ant weight robot that it's kind of been my baby for a little while, but I think I'm retiring it because it's just, I don't know, it's just gotten to a point where I just want to, you know, move to a different design and something like that. So the idea with this guy is, well, obviously this is kind of beat up. That's supposed to be a drum. It's supposed to be Malice like.
Right.
This thing's quite old. But I don't know if it's easy to see, but these pods can actually hinge up and down. So the idea was to be able to have different terrains and be able to get out of situations like that. There was a point at the last Robot Ruckus that we had down here, because I'm in Florida. I'm based out of Florida, as apparently BattleBots teams are. But it's either like the Northeast California or Florida and somewhere else in between.
Anybody who lives by the water, we're all crazy.
This is true. But the idea was to be able to get out of situations, to get off of walls and stuff like that. There was one point where I was being pushed down the arena pit, and one of my wheels actually grabs the side of the pit and pulls me out, so that I actually escaped. So because I remember there was there were people that turned me like, why would you put suspension on a 1 pound robot? I'm like, why not?
That's why.
Well,
You
to
know?
stay free too. Yeah,
Yeah.
I always wondered. It sucks because also when I'm angled, I'm very biased in that plane. So the way I look at it is, yes, I'm invertible, but when I'm in this configuration, in the right side up configuration, I'm
Right.
as good as I can be.
Mhm.
I'm in high traction, low center of gravity. I put all my efforts in one direction,
Mhm.
and then upside down is just a way to keep me moving. But I think to your point, Stephen, staying mobile is part of it. We forget we have to fight all kinds of robots, and if you put shields on your robot, you still got to stay mobile.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of things we can get stuck on, and so the jaws have always been part of that for me. There are ways to not be high centered when you add these things on there, and then you get stuck on them.
Mhm.
I mean, that's as you show Malice.
Yeah, right. As I show basically what has become that.
Oopsie.
That's like, does yours stand on the end as well?
We'll see.
Yeah.
No.
Yay. Oh, that's a cute one.
You'll be fine.
Yeah.
We've discussed Lockjaw a lot. I
Right.
feel like we've discussed obviously Taz a little bit. I feel like we have
Yeah.
to come to.
Let's get in the time machine.
Let's go back to it's the early 2000s. It's a strange time for everyone.
Yeah.
Comedy Central is where BattleBots is being held for some reason. I don't really know why, but we'll go with it.
Because of Carmen Electra.
This is true.
This is true. Let's talk Dissector because I feel like we have to because
You mean
quite
that
the
guy?
thing. Oh, there you
he
go.
is.
Look
He's
at that.
Sneaking out that back there. I didn't even notice it was there.
Look at that boy. Wow.
Who has the coolest table in their office?
For sure.
Sneaky table Dissector. I mean, does it hold a lot of good memories looking back now?
Uh,
A lot of trophies, of course.
yeah. I mean, people always give me, they always like, oh, you won a lot of trophies. I won some driving and a couple championships, sure, out of the 5 they had. I think for the time, the ideas were right. I was very proud when I finally decided to build it. Again, that kind of giddy feeling of, what's after, do I make a better version of TazBot or do I learn from it and mutate the robot to a better design? And I did gravitate more towards being invertibility. I worked for, what years? Let's see, I built 3 versions of TazBot for 3 years, up to 97, I think, before I built Dissector, and I was tired of trying to write myself with TazBot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I think what Dissector did is reminded us that flipping robots over, gaining control of them was pretty much what that design was. That's why it was so wide. I could have made it smaller, but I made it extra wide so that I had a lot of torque and turning. And my dream was dragging robots back and forth across the cheese grater saws. I mean, that was, for me, I wanted to use the arena. I wanted to flip them out. I wanted to drag them back and forth across the saws. That happened a couple times in many matches where that was how I was gonna. I wasn't putting the weapon on the robot. I was gonna use the arena to my advantage, and it worked many times. It also started to open the door about adaptability and having room for bumpers and add-ons. As weird as that is to add to your robot, I did get a certain giddy feeling when I was out in the pits preparing for Final Destiny. And I'm laughing. I watched a match before them where they fought, God, who was it? It was a gas-powered engine. And you know how in the matches we all clear to watch the fights we're in? Actually, I clear to watch all the fights, to be clear. I stop as fast as I can, run over, watch it. As soon as I know I've seen what I need to see, I come back. And I remember watching the Final Destiny match before that, and he had cut open the engine of, I think it was...
it was gray matter.
Huh?
I think it was gray matter.
Gray matter. And the engine was running. and I was watching the piston going up and down without the cylinder being there. As the engine was running, turning back down. There was fire shooting out of it and gas, and the piston's going up and down. And I got that feeling in myself. I was like, oh God, I hope this works. And I'm in the pits, trying to weld on a brand new set of CNC jaws, which were done with a 5-axis machine. And I'm ripping it off, and I'm welding little bits of chromoly together to put a little chromoly tube out there, because I knew in that fight, I seen their armor bounce a little with those straps. And I was like, oh my God, if I could feed that into their weapon, that would just be all I need to do. Right. And it worked. And again, it was kind of, did it look good on film? Sure. But for me, I kind of used their weapon against them,
Yeah, I mean, you used your strategic mind to see what could happen, and you took advantage of it. To
Dissector's point, had he not had the ability to put his jaws down with 300 pounds of force, or at least 150 pounds of weight, then I wouldn't have got under the titanium plates, necessarily. Like a couple times, I think I remember trying, and I was riding up on it, right? Or maybe that's not true. Maybe I did it right out of the gate. But a couple return times, I was going back, and I was riding up on the top of it, and that would have been the death.
That catch point. Yeah.
Right? And if you watch the video, we had a zip tie. Do you remember? No, maybe you weren't there on that one. But we had we put zip ties on the frame because the weapon bar was exactly 1 inch lower than my wheels, and so I wanted to know if I was making it, and I would look for the zip tie to move.
All right.
Right?
I mean, it's a way of doing it, I suppose, isn't it?
No, it's stupid. I'm like trying to be an inch away of an 80-pound spinning bar moving at 100 miles an hour. And I'm
they were scary rookies.
Going, is that zip tie moving? Or?
Yeah. With all the lights flashing in the arena, and you're looking for this little piece of plastic.
Yeah. But Dissector's been a great robot, and people always ask, why don't you bring it back? Well, the hammers. I love the hammers. I feel bad when people give Blacksmith a hard time. I think hammer bots are meant to mix up the way to lose. We want diversity in BattleBots. And every time they change the arena, I get the cringes, because I'm like, well, who are you going to screw out of this plan? Who will we not see? What kind of robots? And when they did change the arena to higher walls, it made an effect on a Dissector. Not getting points for all those hammer blows. I don't know if people know this, but I actually had S7 Mutant Robot logos in the hammer. And when it came down to those judging criteria, I would go over to Ramstein, and they would be like, look, they could see all the logos. They were from me.
Wow. Just stamping your
it's like a cattle prod or something, isn't
we did
it?
this, we did this, we did this,
Right.
we did this.
Because I know on the Comedy Central days, they always used to say that, like, oh, those hammers don't do a whole lot of damage, but they score points.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I mean...
True.
But
they also, we can even look back at some of my fights. The hammer blows hit your antennas.
Yes.
They hit they jam loose belts. They hit unexpected spots, and they put you on the defense. When Dissector was coming at you with those hammers, you still didn't want to sit there.
No.
You were like, well, what's I going to do? Yeah, I mean, I think he had a good run. I did fight some pretty good spinners. I mean, Dreadnought was no easy one. Was another one where we used the jaws to grab the drum. So the robot had its wins, and it had its good luck. But I think as the events started to evolve, they needed to be smaller machines.
Yeah.
That's how I had to evolve.
Right. One important aspect that I want to touch on is that in the early and even the late Comedy Central days, even all the way down to the end, where I mean, we can talk about that fight in season 5 with Dissector, where they had to stop everything because
Gladiator.
that one Gladiator. You guys you Engage honestly had one of the most contentious rivalries probably during that whole era, because you guys fought all the time. It always seemed like Vlad and Taz were fighting, or you had ended up against Gladiator somehow, some way. I mean,
Well,
maybe if you
it was a
could
good
touch on some of
robot,
that stuff.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of good robots that I fought a lot. I mean, Tazbot fought Biohazard must have been 4 or 5
Another
times.
one. Where
Sometimes
Carlo, where are you,
multiple
man?
times, right?
We hear rumblings. Where are you?
Yeah. Well, even loosely looking back at that one with him, there was a couple times I thought I almost had him. I think there was one match with Biohazard where I got the arm in him and I started to lift him from inside of his weapon, and I'm like, "Oh, I got you, I got you." We both did this, right? And I think and I had the same thing happen with Gladiator a couple times where we were just, I got close, but that's how the matches are supposed to be. They're supposed to drive me to be a better driver and build better weapons, and I think those days with Gladiator, the way that last match ended. It sucked. It was too short. But for those listeners out there that don't know what happened, Gage would just drive as fast as he could, and I would be like a gladiator, or I would just move out of the way, and he smashed into the wall and broke out the glass, and so they called it about halfway. But I think most people will say that I was doing pretty good at that point. I was, it was enough to give me the win, even though I would say it's due for a rematch. We all want to win. Honestly, with no contentions at the end.
Sure.
All the young kids should learn that. There's many ways to win, but I don't think anybody in this sport wants to win when a robot breaks that they're against, or they have radar.
Break them, of course.
Yeah, it's got to be earned.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
the best part about BattleBots. Everybody has this kind of, I won, but I really wanted to win without them catching fire. So for all you guys who beat me as I burst into flames, just know I'm still looking for a rematch.
Shatter.
Oh, stop.
Oh, dear.
There's also another point I want to make about early BattleBots days. I know we've heard rumblings for a while about possibly getting a video game for BattleBots this time around.
Yeah.
And I hear a story told around the campfire that you guys may or may not have shut down a hotel lobby playing this game on a TV, and they had to kick you out.
I may have found the ISO to the PlayStation GameCube game. I'm not sure what it is. It said BattleBot ISO on it, and it
did you find it on the dark web, Donald?
The game system, and everybody was playing it. So. Yeah, I think that's the funnest thing, right? To have video games.
Possibly have been a hotel, maybe a lobby. Occasionally you see TVs in them. I don't know.
I think
this is true.
Has been meant, and Robot Wars has been meant from the beginning to bridge the gap between. Hey, come on in, Nate. Let me to bridge the gap. Speaking of video game players, what have you been doing, Nate? This is your youngest builder. This is Nate. This is my son. I have another one that's 15.
Okay.
And he's been playing games. And why don't you tell him, since we're talking about video games, what game we're playing right now? This would be good for them. No, it's not the BattleBots video game, but they're working on it. I will tell you that. Trailmakers. Mark that one down. It's on PlayStation 4 right now and PC. And I uploaded What did me and you build that we uploaded along with, I think Cobalt's there, Beta's there.
We built a lockjaw.
We built a lockjaw. You guys can all download them and drive them. And you get to build your own robot and fight against Lockjaw. And so hopefully that'll put a little fire under BattleBots' butt to get the video games out. So
it'd be nice with
say hi to these guys.
Hello.
Definitely. All right. See you, buddy.
But what I've envisioned truly from the very beginning is that as I've only been designing this stuff in CAD, I do believe we need to bridge the gap. I can pretty much hand my entire robot to the video game guys, and who knows, maybe I did. But I'll tell you what, when you do see it in the video game, it'll be exact.
There you go. That's
it'll be the exact model, the math, the pieces. And I think we would like to see young kids be drawn in to build
Yes.
their own robots. And that's why I mentioned this one game. It's not exactly BattleBots, but you can use rocket engines and a bunch of other stuff. And I love it because it brings out that giddy creativity online, almost Burning Man feeling of building whatever the hell you want, but it has to have real weight and real mass. And at the end, when you hit the button, it says welding the frame.
There you go.
Very
Which is
nice.
really cool.
Nice
So,
touch.
Yeah. So maybe we'll figure out, I'll look for that link that I found to the ISO, and maybe people with hacked GameCubes might
We'll see if we can vet it,
I heard
see
it's out there. I heard it's out
Yes.
there.
It's always been a curiosity, because I feel like right toward the end of the Comedy Central era, it just seems like it just lost momentum. And I don't know if it was any fault.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I want to happen. These things are real characters, they're real robots. They're surviving in a real world. They have their own comic book history from beginning to end. They live out in a real scenario that can be told later, as they should be as good as any real video game, or even comic books. I think should be really close to the fact that this is perfect for the gaming industry. And the two highest things I talk about are my Happy Meal and the video game.
Right,
I
totally.
stood in line at McDonald's and ordered 50 dissectors.
I was going to say, yeah. I
They
think you have
looked
the
at me-
ability to do that.
Yeah. And I go, I don't want the Happy Meal. No offense.
That's mine. I'll bring the big one round if you're not careful.
Yeah, because they allow you to buy the toys. I bought
Yeah.
one.
I could
Happy
show you
Meal.
the CAD. I did it. It's mine.
Yeah. So I hope that we get to do more of that, and I hope that it becomes a big thing, so that we can really make better CAD designers too. That's really all we're doing. We're looking
Definitely.
for better engineers.
Yeah.
So yeah, somebody out there, please put up some kind of gazebo server that makes it easy to import our SolidWorks files. Because I would love to see something like that. Just even as a showcase, a place to brag.
Yeah.
Right?
Steve mentioned the sort of latter end of BattleBots, and there's a machine that was built by your fine self that we came across on Mr. Psycho has a podcast called the Roasting Robots podcast, and we were discussing the robot Muhammad Ali, and it fought a certain robot called Easty Beast, which
Okay.
I wanted to get the story behind this, because this was a sweepstake robot, wasn't it? If you won the sweepstake, you got to drive it in 5.0.
Yeah. I mean, back at that time, all kinds of crazy shit was happening. I think I went to the last season, 5.0 BattleBots, and Comedy Central was looking for somebody to build a sweepstakes robot. So I did 3 CAD designs. I videoed it, and then sweepstakes winner. God dang, I can't even remember their name now, but they won like 30 grand. They were given tickets. They I don't know if it was 30 grand. I think it was 5 grand. But either way, they got to pick one of the 3 CAD designs, which I built, and it was a 2-wheel drive version of a robot that had 3 bays in the middle. Yeah, and it was called. They named it. They called it Beastie Beast. And then they flew into Treasure Island, where I met him for the first time. I taught him to drive it. I made him pit the robot, and then they fought it. Yeah. And
So cool.
It's they didn't get to keep it. I still have it here. It's somewhere. Yeah, great.
It for me is one of the sort of closest semblances to what Lockjaw sort of became, and then where it went afterwards. I mean, it's got those cambered wheels, it's got the jaws at the front and everything, and then it became something called Carbide. I'm looking at the wiki now because I don't know my BattleBots as well as Steve does. But yeah, and it's a vertical spinner with the sort of cambered wheels and the very sort of mutant robotics design. It's sort of early Lockjaw-esque.
I forgot about that. That even though the original root canal was my first spinner, technically, because it had a saw. But you're right. Somewhere out there, I think I did it for like a college team. No, I can't remember who it was I did it for, but there is an image out there floating around with a big milling bit in the center of that frame, and it was reused for something else. I started trying to archive. I don't know if anybody's been to Mutant Robots, but thanks to Reginald here, he's the one who designed the website. We tried to archive all of the different robots out there, and I started really freaking out because it was like
Couldn't
almost
remember
like
some of them.
15,
Yeah.
15 different robots over the years, variant designs, and we still got them all.
I popped onto the website to do a bit of research before we came on to speak, and there's a lovely revolving shot of all the robots. And at one point, it just started getting faster and faster as more robots started coming around. I was like, oh god,
this is too much.
There is one robot I want to talk about. It's not a combat robot. I think Steve was probably going to guess which one it is, and I think
of course. It was one of those robots that got shared. It's one of those robots that where when BattleBots went off the air, that was the one that showed up. It was either that or the one where Backlash is fighting Skidmark. That showed up a lot. When Google decided to just archive, all right, if people are searching for BattleBots, what do we want to show them?
Yeah,
this one.
Gearcrow.
And the BattleBots wiki has basically no information on it. It literally, I've got it in front of me. It just says, anything regarding what it did there, if anything, is unknown. What did it do, Donald? What did it do?
Tell us all about Gearcrow, because it is the coolest thing in the world. By the
BattleBots
way,
wiki people, get your pens out.
Okay. All right. So this is a good story. So BattleBots goes off the air, but most people didn't know that after I won that second championship, I had. Let's talk about it. I had PlayStation games were coming, toys were made. The toy sets had both Tazbot and Dissector in it. I had won. Some sponsors gave me a full CNC. They gave me money and a CNC. Okay, so I took that CNC. It was Cincinnati machine, and I never forget it. I went to West Tech with those pictures of those toys and all the logos on them. And they're like, by the time I went home, they were giving me a check for 30 grand and a milling machine. That's where BattleBots is supposed to go. We're supposed to get those kind of sponsors to help us build the craziest shit we can. So how do I do it? I go back and I say, well, what really should I do to Dissector? What is the evolution of Dissector if I want to make it walk? So that's what I did. I took this brand new machine, I rented a warehouse, and I started a CAD design for that robot. And it's basically Dissector's jaws, the full set of jaws. So those were 70 pounds, maybe 60, right, worth of chromoly. We built a body out of, our typical tubing, but then I built the legs. Now, Gearcrow is designed to do, again, cross that line of what I don't want to do with the walker, okay? What do I not want to do with the walker? I don't want to fall over and not be able to get back up.
Yeah.
Gearcrow is capable of forward cantilevered rolls because each of the limbs are completely separate robots. A little bit of mecha done in my evolution of Gearcrow.
Yeah, you can see the kind of resemblance, can't you?
Right. The foot uses a Dana 80 rear end differential gears, and the foot can rotate 720 degrees on its calf, and it can rotate 180 degrees this way while doing that. Okay. So now my ankles, you can imagine, are fully rotational. Then the calf is completely 360 independent robot to the knee joint. Then the elbow, the shoulder joints are completely cantilevered. And I think in the demo you see me in BattleBots, I had them wired. So, but just know that they are separate robots. The calf is a separate robot. The knee pod, which weighs, the knee and the calf weigh 350 pounds. They're all chromoly gears, all machined, have EV Warrior motors powering 300-to-1 custom servos sandwiched inside the plates. We used off-the-shelf robot controller to drive, non-feedback driven PWM controls to drive it. Mm-hmm. Now, what this gives the robot the ability to do is do forward, turn the jaws all the way around. The body goes like this, the knee joints and the knees go all the way around the body. Very Mechadon-esque, okay? And I got to give him credit because I love that he, that's where the robots start to become something other than a real thing. It can do things that cause me all kinds of problems. It fell over a couple times, almost went through my garage door more than once. It put holes in my concrete floor. Like it would crash and the foot would stick into the floor and chip up all the concrete.
Oh my God.
And I got to a point where it took me a half hour with the cherry picker to move it back where I started to try it again. And this was the insanity. I realized I went too far.
Some would say not far enough, though.
My old boss used to tell me, he said, he used to love the shit I build. He'd be like, Donald, not crazy enough, man. But evolution has its way to kind of impose itself on my robots. It is me paying attention to what I should do next. And in this case, Gearcrow was meant to say, well, I want to be like Mark. I want to go out there and I want to build something to fight what me and Mark want to build. And we've tried a couple times. There's many stories out there about me and him being involved in walking robot shows, trying to do stuff for sci-fi. His heart's in the right spot, so is mine. But on a feasibility level, it can't get to where we really want it to go until some financial help come, because I can't build a version of Gearcrow and have one thing break and that be the end of the match. Yeah. So I focused on durability. I focused on ways to kind of move the robot around in a way that I wouldn't have to totally walk. I could roll or crawl. And then again, that was the beginning of thinking about standing up.
You got Gearcrow to stand, didn't you?
Oh, it would stand and it could invert itself. It could lean itself off, but I never did the move where I do the sideways cartwheels. It's designed to go this way too.
Cartwheels. It's just ridiculous.
I wish I had time to even continue to go back to it, because it's between wanting to build another TASBot or wanting to build another Gearcrow, the robot you see beside you here was what happened afterwards. That was a humanoid I built to try and build a lesser version of a walking robot that I could pick up. Yeah. Surprisingly, this humanoid's 22 axes, and I built that in a weekend, but I still had the same problem. I had to build a special stand whenever it started to fall. I was not capable by myself to pick it up and work with it.
Where's that cherry picker?
Yeah. Well, I have a device that I custom built that slide under its ass, and I would jack it up.
Whatever works.
So again, it went another level. Then I built a complex little humanoid. But this guy, I physically wore a Waldo and fought my son with a lightsaber. Somehow I should put that video up there. But that literally, it was my other son, Trevor, and he was 4. And I let him do whatever he wanted to this robot. He stood there. I gave him the lightsaber. I said, go at me. And I was able to defend myself with the robot. I mean, I wasn't doing dynamic balancing, but I think you can hear in these stories where I'd like to go.
Yeah.
I love the challenge of building. I don't know what would happen if I just kept building the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm kind of bored.
Definitely.
Final stat though. So
well,
all said and done, how heavy is Gearcrow?
Gearcrow currently weighs 900 pounds.
Yeah, it says it on the BattleBots wiki. It's a super heavyweight. I'm like, yeah, no.
Add a bit.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you do the math, they said they'd give you a weight allowance.
Right.
Yeah.
I suppose technically it would come under super heavyweight.
Listen, I was a little embarrassed to bring it not fully ready yet. Matter of fact, I told Trey at that time I wasn't ready. I didn't want to show it. And he's like, well, don't you want to inspire the other people to know that BattleBots is coming back? And BattleBots, this is 2009. They're doing the college tournament. So what do I do like a nut? I build a brand new root canal, and then I drag that thing. Yeah. Remember trying to fit that thing in the U-Haul? We drug it in a U-Haul with a cherry picker in one piece. We shouldn't have. Fucking trailer almost broke.
Yeah, I was going to say, is there any chance of it being on display? But hearing that, probably not. No.
It's still here. I have it taken apart now, but it could be revamped at some point. I just don't know that. Look, at the end of the day, we have to make choices about what the right thing to do. My heart is in making sure young kids get a chance to compete in robots like events like BattleBots, Combots, Robot Wars. All of these have all been the same. But the real challenge is keeping it going.
Yeah.
I think everybody understands this by now. I used to be the one guy that was, because I was on top, they would tout about, oh, you're just all BattleBots. How come you don't fly the pawn to come to Robot Wars?
Well, I was going to ask, was there ever an offer to go over to come over here and fight over
No,
here? Or?
It was just time. I couldn't, I invest so much in it, and I think that I want to build a new robot for everybody.
Sure.
Everybody will look back and see I did it at Combots.
Yeah.
I always want new robots. I want them to feel I pony up something special for them. And so that's the only way I'll do it. Unless for some other reason, you guys entice me just right. I would love to. I've tried a couple times to do a couple other events and it just hasn't worked out. Either because everybody's trying to overlap, everybody's focus is so much on the wrong problem. This is one of those stories we should all work together, because in order for it to prevail, there needs to be the UK Robot Wars needs to be a challenge between the BattleBots, the top UK, the top Combots, the top.
BattleBots has done really well in making it World
years.
Championships. Yeah, is bringing over some of the UK bots, some of the Chinese robots, New
So
Zealand's best, Australia's
So
best.
who can argue that TV hasn't been important for the longevity of the sport?
Honestly,
I mean, even not even just for the sport, but I mean the robot combat community as a whole is the most welcoming and inclusive community out there. And it's through television and then the continuation of the sport beyond that has made that.
I want to make a point. At one of our regulars, the wonderful Matty Vasquez, his family, with TV, they've done an incredible job integrating it into television. And I mean, I have something up beside
family,
me.
Didn't they?
Yeah. I have something up beside me here that there was an episode of CSI that included some of you folks that had an underground fighting ring, and the robots would tear each other apart.
Just like space.
Exactly. That's the kind of stuff that it needed to kind of eke out into kind of like spread its message around to people that maybe you wouldn't have seen things.
I did a whole lot, right? I did. Does anybody seen the one for Shameless that me and Beta Raptor did?
There was,
I think if I look
Big Bang
back,
Theory as well, wasn't there?
I sign up for all
loves
of
the
them.
Vasquez's, so
They call me up. I'm like, I'm there. I don't care who's there, right? I want. Oh, you're gonna do CSI? Okay. How do I get there?
How about that Pizza Hut stuffed crust?
Yeah, Pizza Hut. You know how hard it was to sit there in that Pizza Hut commercial smelling hot dogs on a pizza?
It was so good.
It lasted 1 week. Every time they asked us to do that. But look, we all do it for the right reasons. I'm just trying to bring back, there were days back when it began where it felt a little bit more us and them. Now it doesn't. Now everybody I feel has kind of came back. Sure, everybody has their ways about putting on their events, about what the rules are, and rights and royalties, but isn't it funny that none of it ever mattered? Right. Whatever mattered was that it kept going and more robots got built, and that the sport continued on. And I want you to know that is where my current heart is that I feel that I want to look back when I'm, buried in with my robots,
It's going to be quite a big casket.
The one the garage got emptied, But that maybe that's the point, is that we're doing a lot more for the world and ourselves than we realize. These young engineers need something to follow. They need something to focus on. And I've also been a FIRST mentor Paul has his own team for FIRST Robotics.
Me too. I did that for a while for my local high school. Yeah.
We've been doing it. I think he's like 13. I was in
Yeah.
14. We did it while we were doing BattleBots. And
wow.
again, they tout on how gracious, professional. They do it for all the same
Gracious
over the top
professionalism,
great
oh boy.
reasons. But I can't say enough about the kids that come out of there. The people at my company I hire who come out of these programs.
It's the best experience that
It's good
kids
for
growing
them.
up can have.
Yeah, that was so much fun. I have a lot of really great high school memories. I unfortunately my school we didn't have the funding for an FRC team, so we had an FTC team. But it was still it's such a great experience. You get to be around so many like-minded people, so many bright people. So you get all these experiences that you wouldn't actually have any other way. Vex Robotics, also their competition. It's nice to have places for outlets for people like us. You know what I mean? Where we can just be and experience stuff that you wouldn't normally.
And this is a good time to talk about Vex and some of the sponsors too, right? Just as we went into here probably a little bit, but Vex their heart has been in it since the very beginning. When they were one of my first sponsors to give you the speed controls. You know how happy I was to know I didn't have to buy speed controls. But
they are the most expensive part of a robot.
They tend to burn all the time.
I could tell you stories about them bursting into flames with Bob and Tony with their programmer shipping it in from Florida to try and program them. But the Thor speed controls, I did the first ones and I took them out of my I had 16 Victors in Dissector a week before I went to the final BattleBots. 16. And they go, well, we have these new ones. Do you want to try them? I'm like, yeah. And I put them in. They all burst into flames. But they showed up. It was a simple code area of 6 milliseconds or 6 seconds that was causing the issue and radio interference. But to this point, they flew in, they made him fix, and their heart has been keeping the event going. Even all their efforts for their own competitions, all of these things. I mean, this is a good way to spend our time. If we enjoy building stuff and we enjoy showing it to other people, what a great venue, what a great thing. And I hope that it continues on. And on that note, is Robot Wars back going, right? I mean,
it was, and now it's not again.
Yeah, I mean,
this is the kind of conversation. Can we just wrap this up and send it to the BBC? Anybody that wants to listen.
Thankfully, myself and Jevan were at an event last weekend for one of the smaller weight classes in beetle weight, so £3 basically, but a little bit heavier over here because for some reason, there's so many events across the UK at the moment which are just sprouting back up again, featherweights.
I think we're very lucky to have the events that we do over here, whereas the US get the television show, which is lovely.
Your live scene's very
active,
lively,
very active. Yeah.
Well, that's a good. I'm hopeful that it continues to happen, and I think a lot of folks need one or two things. We need sponsors.
Yeah.
Right now, I still struggle to stay in it at the level that I want to. Luckily, like Spectrum, they're a giant sponsor. They are, we want to achieve the category, and this is what I'm currently trying to work on them. When there's a model selection in the radios, it should say robot.
Yeah.
Basically,
right?
Yeah.
Completely agree.
At this
Honestly.
point.
Why not, right? The radios are, they have a whole new market that they just haven't quite got the traction on. And I use a lot of their new brushless motors and speed controls and now batteries, which I will tell you, this is the first time I've had a sponsor like that really just, for us, they've just been great. They just give us a lot of very fitting parts and components. So
we need more buy-in from companies that really need to see
it's
worth of something like this.
Well, that's because I'm segueing from TV.
Right.
How is sponsors going to want to do it? Well, we either have to build something really cool they want at their trade show, or it's got to be high profile and high profile enough it's doing video games and toys. Yeah. So for the folks out there listening, just remember that is the catalyst to build all the other great robots. You can learn this from First. First Robotics puts all of their effort into bringing on gold and corporate sponsors, and that those sponsors are contributing in a very valuable way that generates scholarships, more teams, community outreach. It helps them pay for the parts. That's the livelihood of this sport. You know, we want to build more complex robots. We need, and SolidWorks, right? They've been a sponsor
Oh,
since
man.
Yeah,
this
they've
entire thing.
really taken over haven't they,
And
recently.
I try to pull in sponsors that I use their parts because they have skin in the game.
Yeah.
You know, and that's an avenue for them to advertise. So for all you big corporations out there that are hopefully dropping an ear in here, I have 2 spots open.
Like where would we be without companies like Dassault Systems or Autodesk?
Vex.
I mean,
Or Vex,
for,
yeah.
or Vex or I mean Lincoln Electric. Where would the sport be without having a huge thing like that?
Like we use them so much at the event.
Yeah.
Lincoln Electric's been totally they you know, and what sucks for me is that it is an easy write-off for all these companies.
Yeah.
You know, they literally go to a checkbox and say community-driven write-off. You know, why not try to make our
Something
engineers smarter, more engineers, more smarter people in both of our countries, right? Let's focus on more of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we're trying to wrap things up a little bit, but I'll ask a question to all 3 of you. Any era, favorite fight that you've been involved in?
Ooh.
Big question to end it off. Let's
From what you
leave it
can
at that.
remember, I know
Yeah,
because it's
exactly.
been quite a stretch.
Okay, do we each get to say one?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If you want, sure.
Well, I will say the one that affected me the earliest, and this was, you know, just remember some of these stories are about not doing very well, but kind of seeing your dream come work. Okay, so one of my favorite ones was against the Brits and Ian and Razor.
It was a great fight, that one.
And I'll tell you why. Because it was, you know, we all knew that Tazbot fit perfectly into Razor's beak, right? But in that match, Razor comes up, gets the first bite, and if I remember right, he squeezes away on the aluminum and we just move away. And then from there on out, the part I remember that I just remember just kind of thinking, oh my God, they must just be pissed. I would slip the weapon, which was what it was designed to, under the side of them. And I would flip them over on their side. And then there was one point where while they were upside down, I pull it off and I put it on top of them, on top of the saws. And I press Tazbot into the saws. And there were sparks. Now, was it that destructive? No. But for me, that was an iconic fight of a legend, a team. I thoroughly respect their build, their ethics, what they consider to be, you know, the way to win. And we put on, you know, I mean, to their part, they were like, well, we didn't do shit. You know, you got us every time, you know, but Tazbot was a good fit for them.
Yeah.
And it might not have been the most exciting for them, but for me, I thought it boosted me a little bit. It reminded me that sometimes the crazy ideas of trying to do unorthodox approaches will have its payoff on TV and people will appreciate it.
And strangely enough, the last few times I've seen a picture of Ian Lewis specifically, he has been wearing a Mutant Robotics t-shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got to make sure we make more shirts. I'm very bad on the PR side. How about you?
I think my favorite was the Yeti fight.
Yeah, good choice.
We started that and then it went wrong and then it went right and my heart kept going like up and down and up and down and there's just sparks and things going everywhere.
Didn't we get him up in the screws like the jaws hinged him?
Yeah.
I watched the fight earlier. It was such a good scrap.
It was close.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it was like, I don't really care if we win or lost that. I'm just giddy and excited. That was amazing.
Yeah.
That was just.
Was that a 3
That's the
more
goal,
minutes?
really, you know, like
Were
to
they
have
chanting
that.
3 more minutes on that one? No, that was it was a riot.
we wouldn't have lasted another 30 seconds, I don't think. That 3 minutes was enough.
Yeah, with no jaws functioning, that was a tough one. That was a tough way to lose everything.
They still worked just fine for what they did.
Did we have the spinner on the back of that?
No.
I don't think anybody really ever realized that robot had a spinner too.
It'd be a little thing, yeah.
It was
I don't think we ever ran it. Like,
Well,
It was a baby.
Probably why no one knew.
It was a little baby one.
probably a good reason. Yes.
How about you, Rich?
Oh, I think it's probably a more recent fight, the one against Bloodsport.
Ooh.
That was
Not
a good-
because I was
yeah.
driving the weapon,
Yeah.
but mostly because I think it showed the power of the spinner.
It
Yeah.
really
We
did.
got one good hit in, and he flipped out of the frame 3 times in the air, and I think we knew
Spectacular.
at that point that we had dialed it in, and
Yeah.
that it was nothing to mess
Yeah,
around
definitely.
with.
It was
Yeah.
definitely a in hindsight of the 2020 season, the fact that Lockjaw, struggled its way but managed to get through to the 32, I believe, did it? Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
And then, but the real best showing of it was the Bounty Hunters, where
Yeah.
should have been a bounty, but
Maybe next year, Jevan. Come on.
You never know. Yeah, I think that is true to this season as we round up on where we ended up. Shatter definitely, going backwards a bit, Shatter surprised us with the magnets. None of us knew. And when I went out there and I was like, why the frick is this not working? Right? We were being pushed by an Omni robot.
Yeah.
Do you know the feeling when I was looking down at them with those 4-inch little Omnis? It never occurred to me. I just thought this could not possibly be a traction issue for us.
Right.
We did our gearing, we got rubber tires. I got, way more coefficient and weight, and the jaws will get right under there. Good job on keeping that one secret. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Because and then of course at the end we lost when we flipped up, we processioned. Now again, as we this season started getting more power, our weapon is no joke now. We finally got the right mixture of things going on that thing, and we learned a lot of new. That was the first time we seen what happens with it really up, and that maneuver cost me, and it also cost us in what we found when we went inverted. We're still trying to figure out. We have a couple hypotheses, but I won't go into how we thought we burst into flames. But it did suck to lose to that last hit because he didn't touch us in the final part, right? So, regardless of that, the guys from Jackpot again surprised us, took off all their jaws, came right at us, and I remember flinching. I remember fixing to do something. I had a plan. We all had a plan.
Oh yeah.
And then I looked
Best laid
up and it
plans.
was right there.
Right until the light goes green.
And it was right there. And it was like there was no other move that didn't involve a worse hit.
Yeah,
And
sure.
and a decision to turn into them, as you know, was a bit of a gamble.
Very good.
yeah.
Yeah. We played poker the night before.
Down.
You were
We
flushed out.
did. We
Did add a much better pulley guard after that.
Yeah. And again, we were still finding that brand new version of Lockjaw. Now, moving into the bounty, it's a whole new robot. Lockjaw's kind of, as we build a new machine, I will say you'll be surprised at what happens next with us. We will come back stronger for sure. And I think we like where we're sitting at this point, 5 weeks out. And
I can't believe it's so soon.
We're more ready than we ever been. I can tell you
Yeah.
that. Yeah, we haven't been sitting around playing poker.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Got to prepare.
Yeah.
Some Russian roulette soon, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Listen, guys, thank you all three of you so much for a lot of years of great entertainment, and hopefully a lot of years to come as well. And I have to say a special thank you to Paul, who actually organised this in the first place. It was quite the surprise when I got a message saying, "Oh yeah, let's talk about Lockjaw." I was like, "Okay." So
yeah, and I will say,
I thought it would work out well. So.
Yeah.
I will say, I don't know what episode it was, Sam, but I think it was. We all talked about you want to talk to John Reed. John, where are you? Can we chat? It'd be great. you asked who all of us would like to speak to, and my first no hesitation was I wanted to speak to you, Donald. Honestly, to be honest with you, I mean, it's time for the heart wrenching moment. I always get my spot. But to be honest with you, to be honest, growing up watching the show, I was lucky enough. Well, to be honest with you, I was lucky enough to have public access television in Philadelphia, WHYY, to get Robot Wars, and I'm like, all right, cool. I'm really into this. You know, me and my dad. He's a C5 quadriplegic, and he and I do stuff in the garage all the time, and I build projects with him. I do a lot with him. It's a huge part of my life. I get to experience. He gets to kind of experience engineering through me because I'm currently an informatician. I'm working to get my master's, hopefully get into database management and stuff like that. But my heart is in mechanics and being able to just do all kinds of things. And I got all kinds of cool stuff on his wheelchairs. I got headlights, I got phone chargers, I got all kinds of cool stuff. He's got all kinds of gadgets.
Did you know that my history in the medical field, that I was a rehab technology specialist?
Yeah,
I did stuff for your dad. I did it for people for 6 years.
Yeah.
So that's how I got into robotics, was I was helping people in the medical field with all kinds of home healthcare stuff. So I say that not because of the connection, but because I learned that it was a very rewarding feeling to engineer and build stuff. And it was even more to help people, you know, and be their MacGyver. I was very much appreciated, as I'm sure some of the fans out there that knew me back then would tell you that I was their MacGyver guy that would go and help them problem solve. And they rewarded me. They were what made me do Robot Wars. They made me feel like I was the kind of guy who could do something like that. And I was very inventive and problem solving, and that I deserved to do something on a TV show like that. And it made me really appreciate being an engineer. So I'm glad it does it for you. And
it's
I'm
just
sure your dad's appreciative to see you, continue to be driven.
Yeah.
Right. That's the part that young kids kind of need. And
absolutely.
And I'm very thankful that you guys invited me to do this. Just know I have no reserves about the social media part. It's just I try not to play that game. The thing I tell my team
totally
is,
understand.
do you know how much work it takes to have your own robot company and build BattleBots and have a life? You have to balance these things ever so carefully, because they all have a play in how successful you are. If you don't have the right home life, you won't be inspired or do well in the other things that you're more inspired to do. You won't go home and be like, life is so good. What can I work on now? What am I going to put my time into that is just going to put a big smile on my face and make me do it?
Yeah.
And I do want to do better at the social media part. I do wish I had a bunch of t-shirts for sale, and I wish I did a lot more of these to inspire folks. But hopefully what they see is through my robots where I put my love, and where I put my love for the whole sport.
Definitely.
I really want that for all of you. I'm really glad that you chose me to be the 100th episode.
It was a pleasure. Absolutely.
I feel honored for that. I'm sure, speaking for our whole team, that I can, look back and say that this kind of stuff's worth doing on a very important build day for us.
You're
I'm going to put this much effort
Absolutely.
into the robot. I'm going to put this much effort into reaching thousands of fans and reminding of what's worth doing in your spare time.
I think that's a huge part of like what we've done. I mean, you, Sam, you can speak for yourself, but to be honest with you, to be a part of something like this is to be able to share knowledge and share love for something that's really brought us all together. It's become a huge part of my life, and I'm very thankful to be a part of this. So even if I've only been around since episode 43, Sam, I think. So, but that's okay.
Suffice to say, without obviously, going into too much of a tangent, but as a result of this podcast, I ended up, meeting a bunch of people, who have helped me, join a heavyweight team, build other robots myself. It's, it's all part of it, as much as, obviously the sport is everything, we kind of get drawn towards the engineering side and everything else. The community around it as well is also amazing. And, with that all said,
they'll all help
welcome
us
back anytime.
There's not a single person in the pits, no matter who you're going against, that won't help you, to make sure the fight's a good fight and make sure the show succeeds. And I think that's really it is. And a lot of these sports, it's about the people you get, you have a commonality with. And I'm glad it's affected you guys, and I hope it affects your kids from there on out, and the people you interface with. This is what we leave behind. We leave the world a better place, and I'm not trying to be morbid about it in any way.
No,
of course not.
Of course not.
I'm saying that I already know that these were the right things for me to work on. I don't know that my back says it right now.
Yeah.
Back definitely has that.
Heavyweights are
I
heavy.
keep trying to build
Yes,
smaller
can confirm.
robots.
Yeah.
They still weigh the same.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Yeah.
Very dense these days, right?
Yeah.
Well,
So,
yeah. Let's wrap things up there.
and we'll leave it right here. Fighting
It
time!
sure is.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Well, that was something, wasn't it? Just from me quickly before we wrap things up, I just want to say thank you all so much for all your support over the last now 100 RoboCast episodes, and of course the last 5 years that when I'm recording this on the 19th of July, it's 5 years to the day we posted our Series 8 preview, which is amazing. The fact that we've been able to keep it go for so long, and you've put up with us chatting a load of nonsense at times, and just thank you so much. And yeah, here's to season 6. Can't wait to cover that and a bunch of other things in between, but we'll speak to you soon. Thank you very much, guys.